Queer is a funny term for me. I learned to like it, but I didn't really like it in the beginning. Like for me, queer um, in Germany maybe for me always meant like had this connotation of a slightly lazy aesthetic, and I got to learn that queer means a lot more. I'm not really sure if I agree with this idea of like if I like an umbrella term where everything needs to come like under the umbrella, but I think it's important. I prefer the word gay, faggot, whatever, but I don't see myself as a queer artist. Like I'm definitely part of it, but I would always say like I'm a gay artist or like I'm a faggot. Good thing about queer is that it is a lot. Sometimes I wish it would, or for myself, personally for myself, I prefer things that are a little bit more narrow maybe, but I do appreciate that it gives the room for a lot of people that do need or find some sort of a home. I think the queer community should have safe spaces. I don't think it should only exist in safe spaces. I think it's important to be outside of safe spaces, and if you can afford it, if you have the stamina and the strength, I think it's important to be outside and not in a safe space, but there's a lot of people who need to be in a safe space or protected by a safe space to actually develop the strength. But I grew up as a really androgynous child, and I grew up in the countryside, so I faced not bullying, but I faced aggressions like on a daily basis, which made me strong. But that journey doesn't mean that everyone else is experience the same thing, or like safe spaces. Like for me, a safe space could be, or was a theater, was photo books, art, books in general. Like my safe space as a child, as a teenager, was really like reading and being in a different world. I didn't need a physical safe space in terms of like a community center, but I think it's really important and good that we have that now and that people are aware of it. I just don't think that everything can be solved by staying in a safe space, because then we basically live in a ghetto, and that doesn't help either. And I think like we need people who fight and be outside on the streets. Not at all. I don't think Instagram is a safe space at all. Instagram is censoring, especially the queer community, but also like so much like the morals that Instagram or like Facebook, Instagram is putting up onto teenagers growing up with it is dangerous. I think I can't agree with the Puritan moral system that is put on us like from America. It's like, I think it's dangerous. I'm glad that I didn't grow up with it, but there are kids that are 10, 11, 12, 14 years old that grow up here in Europe believing that nipples are dangerous, that a depiction of two men kissing is kind of like awkward, and that's because of Instagram and because of Facebook, and I think that is not okay. That is absolutely dangerous, and therefore no, Instagram, Facebook are definitely no safe spaces. I think I use, as many other people, I use Instagram as probably like as some sort of a marketing platform, maybe, to put it really simple. Instagram you have a nice reach. A lot of people can see it. For me, Instagram makes sense when I get messages from people in Pakistan or Iran writing me that it's actually really important for them like to see my work and that they really appreciate. Then I actually realize how important it is, and we need to remember that we do live in a society where we are actually quite blessed. We have reached a lot already. I don't think we have reached everything, but people in other countries can have access to photos like mine or others through Instagram. Then actually it makes sense. I never wanted to take photos, to be honest. Like I started out of a necessity because I was pretty ill. Like I had a brain inflammation and I was in hospital and was basically dealing with the possibility of memory loss, and I used photography in the beginning in that time as a diary, as documenting my life. And out of that I started to use the photos that I took I started to post here and there little things, and I got this massive feedback, and that made me rethink my practice of like not using it as a private form, but actually creating the imagery that I have in my head that keeps following me since I'm little, and actually creating these photos. And that's how it started. So it's a relatively new thing, photography, but a quite interesting journey. I've never been really interested in the depiction of the whole image. Like, I think we all have little obsessions, and I tend to focus on bits and pieces of people. When I meet someone, I do obviously look at the whole person, but then my eye always travels to these small details, and can be like the collarbone or piece of the neck, and these tiny little things have always interested me. But a big part of my work actually is focusing about memory, like pre-coming out memories that we all have, like these tiny little memories of things that turned us on and we had no idea why. Like watching the best friend of our brother sweating after playing soccer, and just like this drop of sweat coming down, and these moments of seeing that, watching that, being completely turned on and not really be able to tell what's happening right now. And most gay men I talk to have these memories and these tiny little obsessions, and a lot of my work is circling around that. So it's really like getting really close to this little section of the body, to this moment, and showing that. And the interesting part, I think, for me is that I give you like a little hint of something that happens in my photography, but I'm not really interested in telling a story, like give you the whole story. Like if you're lazy, you can look at it and go on and forget about it, but a lot of people actually start to create their own stories and tell me their stories, and they're quite interesting, they're quite different. Like one, coming back to the drop of sweat, like for one person it can be this really whole setup about, it can be really sexual, for others it can be really sporty, or and that's for me the interesting part, when people actually stop and start to create their own storyline. But for me, if I would zoom out and like give you the whole story, the whole setup, then I would limit also people in their imagination and their creativity. Like, in terms of the subjects, it's never really about the model. Like I always tell my models, it's not about you. It's like, I'm not taking portraits, and that's for me something really important, that people know that beforehand. I objectify men. It's like I've grew up in a time where women have been objectified in pretty much every magazine. You open it up and you've seen basically tits and naked women, and you might like it or you might not like it, but like the man was always off topic. It was never really possible to actually see naked male nudity. And so for me it's quite important, like to use that and really turn it around. And it is really objectification. I use the model more or less as an object and create these images, and I spend a lot of time with the model and I talk a lot with the model, but in the end it's about my idea of them and not about themselves. And this intimacy that is happening in that moment is quite special, I think, for me. Like, I don't like to shoot people that I don't know or haven't met beforehand, so I always make sure that I actually spend time beforehand with the model to get to know them, but also like give them a chance to get to know me, to make things a little bit more relaxed. Because the next time we see each other, that person will be naked in front of me, which can be really awkward for someone. For others it's quite normal, but most people it's not a normal state. So this intimacy, a big part of my job is to create a relaxed situation so people can let go, and being naked is not that awkward anymore. I never really ask anyone to shoot them. Like I've been really in this fortunate situation that people ask me and want to participate. I always felt really uncomfortable when people approached me when I was younger to shoot me. It always felt like this slightly leechy, weird situation of like, hey, I want to shoot you naked. It's like, So if someone approaches me, I already know that they're fine with that. Like it's not, I don't want to convince anyone like to drop their pants or to take off their top. It's like you need to be willing to do that and wanting to do that. So luckily in times of social media or like generally internet, like people know how to connect, and they do. I would like to see a lot more diversity in terms of skin color. It's a really simple one, but it's apparently still not doable. Like I see a lot of white skin, and but there's not much diversity. I think that for me personally, like in my field, is something that I would like, and especially if I look around in a closer circle, like I still see a lot of people with a lot of talent, but really focusing like on one body type, on one skin type, also age type. Like look around a little bit around these white, skinny models. They're beautiful, they're nice, and I think it's important like to show that, but it's not just one view. I think we have so much more to show, and for me it's interesting when people actually manage to give me like their personal view on that. Thank you.